The concept presented here is based on a simple psychological observation. Children become what they repeatedly hear and see. During childhood, the brain is highly impressionable. Words that children hear repeatedly from parents, teachers, and their environment gradually influence how they think about themselves. For example, if a child repeatedly hears phrases like, "You are smart," "You are brave," "You can do this," those messages slowly become part of the child's belief system. Krivtykes uses this psychological principle in a unique way. Instead of relying only on spoken encouragement, it turns positive words into something children can wear every day. Through clothing that carries empowering quotes, the brand attempts to make positivity visible and constant in a child's daily life. In this way, Krivtykes connects three important elements: mindset, science, identity. The idea is that repeated exposure to positive words can gradually shape how children see themselves. The slide explains how simple words can gradually become part of a child's identity. This process happens in 4 stages. 1. Repetition. First, the child repeatedly sees or hears certain words or phrases. For example, "I am confident," "I am brave," "I am kind." When a phrase appears repeatedly in a child's environment, the brain begins to recognize it as familiar. 2. Belief. After repeated exposure, the child begins to accept the phrase as something that might be true about them. The mind slowly moves from hearing the words to believing them. 3. Identity. At this stage, the child begins to see the phrase as part of their identity. Instead of thinking, "This is just a sentence," the child starts thinking, "This describes who I am." 4. Behavior. Once the identity forms, behavior begins to change. Children start acting according to the identity they believe in. This is the fundamental principle behind the Krivtykes concept, turning simple positive phrases into identity-building experiences for children. Modern neuroscience provides strong support for the idea that repeated language shapes thinking. One widely known neuroscience principle states, "Neurons that fire together, wire together." This means that when a thought or message is repeated many times, the brain strengthens the neural pathway associated with that thought. In childhood, these pathways develop very quickly. Research shows that when children repeatedly hear or read statements such as, "I am confident," "I am brave," "I can improve," the brain gradually builds mental patterns that influence how children approach challenges. Positive language can therefore strengthen confidence and resilience. Repeated affirmations slowly move from being external messages to becoming part of the child's internal self-talk. The idea of mindset development is strongly supported by the research of Dr. Carol Dweck from Stanford University. Her research identifies 2 types of mindsets. Fixed mindset. Children with a fixed mindset often believe that abilities are permanent. They may think, "I am not good at this. I cannot improve. Failure means I am not capable." Because of this belief, such children often avoid challenges and fear failure. Growth mindset. Children with a growth mindset believe that abilities can improve through effort and practice. They tend to think, "I can improve if I try. Mistakes help me learn." Research shows that children with a growth mindset are more willing to take on challenges and recover more quickly from setbacks. The idea behind Krivtykes is to reinforce growth-oriented thinking through daily exposure to positive messages. Repeated positive language can influence several aspects of a child's psychological development. Increased self-esteem. Children who are regularly exposed to encouraging language often develop stronger self-confidence and a healthier sense of self-worth. Better emotional regulation. Positive messages can help children manage emotions more effectively when facing challenges or setbacks. Long-term confidence. When identity-based statements are repeated consistently, they can become long-lasting beliefs about oneself. Over time, daily exposure to positive phrases moves the message from simple awareness to a deeper level of self-definition. In other words, the message becomes part of how children think about themselves. One interesting aspect of this idea is the role of daily visual exposure. Children interact with their clothing many times during the day. A typical child looks in the mirror every morning, wears clothing for 8 to 10 hours daily, sees their own shirt several times during the day. This means that a short phrase printed on clothing can be seen repeatedly without any conscious effort. If a child sees a positive statement, even 10 times a day, that could create 10 reminders per day times 365 days equals 3,650 positive reinforcements every year. This shows how small daily exposures can accumulate into strong belief patterns over time. Clothing has always played a psychological role in shaping identity. For example, school uniforms. They create a sense of discipline and belonging. Sports jerseys. They build team pride and collective identity. Superhero t-shirts. They make children feel powerful, brave, or adventurous. Krivtykes applies the same principle but with a different objective, reinforcing positive identity statements. Unlike books or lessons that children may see occasionally, clothing remains with them throughout the day. This constant presence allows the message to become closely connected to the child's self-image. Parents generally want their children to develop qualities such as confidence, emotional strength, positive thinking, resilience. However, parents may not always find opportunities to reinforce these values continuously. Krivtykes attempts to support this process indirectly. By placing empowering messages in a child's daily environment, the concept connects parental intention with daily exposure for the child. In this sense, the clothing becomes a subtle reinforcement tool for the values parents wish to cultivate at home. This slide illustrates a psychological cycle known as the identity reinforcement loop. The process works as follows. 1. The child reads a positive quote. 2. The brain processes the meaning of the message. 3. Repetition gradually builds belief. 4. The belief begins to influence actions and behavior. For example, if a child repeatedly sees the phrase, "I am kind," the brain gradually associates kindness with the child's identity. Eventually, the child may begin to behave in ways that align with that identity. This cycle repeats continuously and strengthens the connection between belief and behavior. When positive language becomes a regular part of a child's environment, it can lead to several long-term benefits. Children may develop better coping skills. They become more capable of handling stress and setbacks, reduced fear of failure. Encouraging messages increase willingness to try again after mistakes. Higher social confidence. A positive self-image improves interactions with peers. Stronger communication. Children with a healthy sense of self-worth often express themselves more openly and confidently. Consistent exposure to encouraging language can therefore contribute to stronger emotional resilience and a stable sense of self-identity. In this way, even small daily reminders can create meaningful long-term influence on a child's development.